Hi everyone, I'm Wafalango and welcome you all in Grammar in Detail. We will discuss today the second modal auxiliary verb, how we are going to change it into passive voice. So we have already discussed the definition of modal auxiliary verbs, but here we will be having the repetition in order to make you understand what actually modal auxiliary verbs are. Let's go towards the definition. Must, ought to, should, can, could, may, might, will, shall, would and used to are called modal auxiliary verbs. One thing you might have noticed that used to is written in yellow in order to clear your confusion. Modal auxiliary verbs, modal auxiliary verb used to, as a little bit have some discussion. We will have a lot of discussion about it at the end when we will start it in the 11th parts of speech, in 11th modal auxiliary verb. So some of the grammarians say that used to is a modal auxiliary verb, and some of them say that it is a structure. So this confusion we will be removing when we will go towards the 11th modal auxiliary verb. Somehow we have today the second modal auxiliary verb, that is known as ought to. One note we will discuss: we will learn the detail of modal auxiliary verbs in parts of speech when we start parts of speech. And note that modal auxiliary verbs are studied in two categories. The first one is secondary level and the second is known as the primary level. Secondary level we will be learning the possibilities, like here we will discuss that what is the possibility of modal auxiliary verb ought to. And second one, primary level, here we will be learning the usages of modal auxiliary verb. As I tell you, the modal auxiliary verb can, in secondary level it has got the percentages, like we say 50%. I can teach you, if you want I will, if you don't, so no force or no argument. Clear? So it means can. And in the same way we have got the usages, so there that will be called primary level, like we have got the usages of modal auxiliary verb can, like it is used for physical ability, mental ability, ability of learn, the authority, permission and possibility. So these are the usages of modal auxiliary verb. As we will start parts of speech, there you will be learning the detail of modal auxiliary verbs. Somehow we will discuss ought to. Ought to is a modal auxiliary verb which is used for an action which is an obligatory to you but not the 100%. And ought to is less stressable than must and more stressable than should. It is more powerful than should and less powerful than must. So we will discuss modal auxiliary verb ought to, from active voice into passive voice. Here we have got the topic modal auxiliary verb ought to, from active voice into passive voice. So in active voice, subject is the doer of an action. In passive voice, subject is effected. When it is effected, that is called title subject. And when subject takes the place of object, that is called title subject. And object takes the place of subject, so there will be called the agent. Keep in your mind, when object takes the subject takes the place of object, that will be called agent. Now here your agent means the doer of an action, like Holy Quran ought to be recited definitely by a so there is the agent doing this action. And now let's discuss the formula of active voice sentences for modal auxiliary verb must, that is subject plus ought to plus bare infinitive. Keep in your mind, with all modal auxiliary verbs you will be using bare infinitive. What is bare infinitive? It is one of the kinds of infinitives. Infinitives have got some 9 kinds. One of them is, what are infinitives? When a verb doesn't work as a verb in a sentence, it works as a noun, adjective or as an adverb in a sentence is called infinitive. The detail we will be discussing when we will start the infinitives. But here keep in your mind, after modal auxiliary verbs, after all modal auxiliary verbs, you will be using bare infinitive. Bare infinitive means only first form of the verb working as a noun. So here recite is the name of an action. This action is to be done. Clear? And in passive voice, formula is subject ought to plus be plus third form by agent and full stop. Why ought and to is written separately? Because when you will make negative sentences, not will come in between them, and when you will make interrogative, ought will come at the beginning, subject and then to be plus third form, and with formal ought plus subject plus not plus to then be third form. In this way you will be making the sentences as in informal also. So let's discuss the sentences. She ought to recite Holy Quran. Holy Quran ought to be recited by her. We ought to support the needy people. Needy people ought to be supported by us. So these works are as sort of obligations. 85% you need to do it. If you don't do it, no doubt, you may have some problems. But we say that you ought to, as a way of respect, that stressing someone that you ought to recite Holy Quran. Being Muslim, you need to recite Holy Quran. So for that, you are stressing. If you don't do it 100% as like obligation, it is not, but less than obligation, you'll say ought to. In the same way, we ought to support the needy people. If you don't do, no matter, like we say, if you're not supporting, that's your choice or wish. But if you help them, you'll feel a soul relaxation, that I'm quite relaxed, that I've done some sort of goodness, and that is what you feel by earth happiness is. So that there you'll be using ought to. After that, we have got the negative sentences. What are negative sentences? Those sentences in which we deny the statement, reject the statement, or refuse the statement. While making the sentences of negative, as I told you, ought and to, between them you will be putting not. Like, she ought not to recite Holy Quran. Holy Quran ought not to be recited by her. We ought not to support the needy people. Needy people ought not to be supported by us. Interrogative sentences, those sentences in which we ask question, deny the statement, we ask them in a polite way, formal way, respective way. Clear? In order to put a query, like we just ask a question in a polite way, like we say, ought she to recite Holy Quran? Ought Holy Quran to be recited by her? Ought we to support the needy people? Ought needy people to be supported by us? Formal sentences, those sentences in which we ask question and deny the statement, but we ask them in our respective way, polite way. We use it with our elders, or we use it with our seniors. Like we say, ought she not to recite Holy Quran? Ought Holy Quran not to be recited by her? Ought we not to support the needy people? Ought needy people not to be supported by us? Informal sentences, those sentences in which we ask question, deny the statement, and we ask them in an informal way. We use it with youngers, juniors, or we use it with the one whom you are close with, or you can use it in your friendly atmosphere. Like we say, oughtn't. Okay, when ought not comes together, that is oughtn't, the short form. Oughtn't she to recite Holy Quran? Oughtn't Holy Quran to be recited by her? Oughtn't we to support the needy people? Oughtn't needy people to be supported by us? So these are the sentences of modal auxiliary verbs from active voice into passive voice. The modal auxiliary verb ought to, and we have already discussed that it is more stressable than should and less stressable than must. So hope you got today's lecture. Now main thing is practice. The corner verbs we will select and we will make the sentences. Like I say, take, we have got the verb like take, study, create, preach, beat. So let's make the sentences of modal auxiliary verbs, one active and then all you will be changing into passive voice. Like I say, you ought to take exercise. Exercise ought to be taken by you. Exercise ought not to be taken by you. Ought exercise to be taken by you. Ought exercise not to be taken by you. Oughtn't exercise to be taken by you. You ought to study the books. Books ought to be studied by you. Books ought not to be studied by you. Ought books to be studied by you. Ought books not to be studied by you. Oughtn't books to be studied by you. Create. She ought to create problems. Problems ought to be created by her. Problems ought not to be created by her. Ought problems to be created by her. Ought problems not to be created by her. Oughtn't problems to be created by her. You must preach them. You ought to preach them. They ought to be preached by you. They ought not to be preached by you. Ought they be to preached by you? Ought they not to be preached by you? Oughtn't they to be preached by you? And beat. You ought to beat him. He ought to be beaten by you. He ought not to be beaten by you. Ought he to be beaten by you? Ought he not to be beaten by you? Oughtn't he to be beaten by you? So in this way, you'll be practicing them. You'll get a lot of experience, and that is the today's topic. Wish you best of luck. Next time we will be discussing the next modal auxiliary verb. Keep studying. Goodbye.